Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Fallen London. Today we're going to be having a look at April's exceptional story. There is the richest juice in poison flowers, which may be the longest title of any exceptional story I've recorded. I could be wrong on that, but it's very long. But as always, at the start of a new exceptional story, I encourage you to play these yourself. There are spoilers ahead. Help support Failbetter, become an exceptional friend. Not only could you get access to these stories, you get an expanded deck, an extra candle, access to the House of Chimes and various outfit slots and other benefits. But without further ado, let's jump in. Exotic toxicity. A new attraction has captivated society. A poison garden. Word has it that the botanist behind the enterprise has curated toxic growths from across the Neath and is displaying them in a manner that is almost entirely safe. The price of admission is steep, but the botanist is said to waive it for those who might bestow glamour or gravitas upon the proceedings. Oh, let's visit the poison garden before it becomes passé. A few streets from Lady Bones Road is a smart house fronted by a manicured mushroom garden. The door is opened by a woman wearing an arresting gown of emerald satin. She introduces herself as the botanist behind the poison garden and assures you that your visit is free. But do tell people, she winks, the right people. You follow her inside, past imposing bookshelves and pressed surface plants, to a pair of French doors overlooking the garden. Please enjoy the collection, says the enterprising botanist. Just don't touch anything. Society types waft through the poison garden, giddy with proximity to danger. They stretch in permanent fingers towards leaves and flowers and fruiting bodies, then snatch them away, giggling. Nothing here is a true threat. It has all been tamed. We have quite a lot of options here. I guess we should just start at the top and work our way down. Good lord, there is a lot of options here. Let's start with a stroll through the poison garden. This is a place for leisure. The poison garden is long and thin, but the meandering path and abundance of foliage give the illusion of a more sprawling space. It has the feel of a jungle, though nothing here is truly a plant. There is none of Parabola's verdancy. Mushrooms, hellflowers and imported blooms are displayed behind netting and bell jars, moistened by mechanized atomizers. Near the French doors, a bartender mixes drinks named after poisons, a detail which arouses much mirth amongst the visitors. At the end of the garden is a hothouse. It is not open to visitors. Ooh, that's where all the exciting stuff is bound to be. Let's examine the mushrooms. You will not find peppercaps here. I sourced these with the help of a mycologist, says the enterprising botanist as you peer at the finger-like mushroom. She runs a flirtatious finger over its purple cap and laughs when she sees your expression. This specimen must be ingested to cause harm, she says. The body cannot process it, so the poison continues to circulate, doing a little more damage each time. Particularly nasty in the Neath, given that it lingers in the body after death. Oof, that is very unpleasant. Let's admire the surface plants. How are they surviving down here? From a distance, the foxgloves and deadly nightshade are beautiful. Delicate splashes of pink and purple against thick foliage. As you approach, it becomes apparent that the leaves have yellowed and the flowers are papery. Shipped down the Crimean Canal this very morning, says the enterprising botanist. They won't last the week without the sun. Still, another shipment will arrive in a few days. She gazes fondly at the wilting water hemlock. No poison garden would be complete without them. We can look at the hellflowers. This is going to use our dangerous skill. From a distance, they resemble surface blooms. Marigolds, violets, and lilies from the fields of hell are displayed within bell jars. A violet has fallen from its stalk, and its shattered petals glint upon the soil. A single rose commands attention. The explanatory plaque explains how such blooms were used as weapons in the campaign of '68. A devil watches you open a leather-bound album containing daguerreotypes of the wounds sustained by London soldiers. You cannot pass the pictures at first. Just rose bushes, a little unruly, though perhaps that is because the pots they have been planted in are... those are not pots. You close the book. The devil turns away. Reminds me of another exceptional story. The Crown of Thorns, I think it was called. Okay, next we have peer inside the pitcher plant. The sign clearly says not to. Well, we have to, don't we? We just have to. This is going to use our shadowy. Let's be sneaky. According to the plaque, the thing is not a plant, exactly, but a necrotizing fungus that prefers to ingest flesh rather than grow upon it. Its bulbous pitchers are the size of your head. You cover your nose and mouth against the smell of rotting meat and peer inside the pitcher. Once your watering eyes have adjusted to the gloom, you see a pool of molten flesh. The surface quivers, and you stand back, just in time. Here we gained an unidentified thigh bone. Nice. Let's speak with the enterprising botanist. Why did she open the poison garden? It is an academic's responsibility to inspire as much as it is to educate, says the enterprising botanist. She smooths the verdant satin of her gown and follows your gaze to the bejeweled benefactories of her magnanimity. Some of my colleagues at the university disapprove, he admits, but they're hypocrites. There's not one who doesn't have a study they'd pursue if only they could secure funding. It's not my fault they can't do what I've done and finance their work via other means. Still, I must be careful. This house belongs to the university. What do you mean you funded it through other means? What other means? Do we trust the woman with a poison garden? I don't know. Let's mingle amongst the guests. They're gathered near the bar. Most of the guests are laughing as they sip cocktails from little poison vials. But one man stands apart. He casts a disdainful eye over the proceedings. This fascination with poisons is macabre, he mutters, tongue loosened by liquor and resentment. When I agreed to help her source the fungi, she assured me they were for academic purposes. What she actually meant is that she'd be putting them in an expensive zoo so she could use the profits for research the university won't sanction. The aggrieved mycologist swirls his vial, glowering. Oh, that explains where she's getting the money from. The zoo that we're in right now. That's less suspicious. Let's speak with the devil. Does the brass embassy condone the presence of hell plants? The devil will not answer that question directly, but alludes to the fact that the brass embassy can be encouraged to view certain academic activities as being of diplomatic benefit. He will not elucidate further. Oh. And then finally, not finally, but here we have the gardener. Someone must maintain this place, and this is the man off of the front of the main artwork. Let's see what he has to say. The gardener's knees are filthy, and his hands bandaged, but he still cuts an eye-catching figure as he strides between the flower beds. It is possible that the poison garden requires so much maintenance that he must work through the visiting hours, but also possible that he's part of the attraction. "I hear he came down from the surface," whispers a taffeta-clad lady. "Wanted to learn how to ply his trade in the Neath. So kind of our hostess to give him a job." Her companion watches the gardener sling a sack of earth across his shoulders and nods approvingly. "Oh. Well, we may as well impress the gathered party with our knowledge of poisons. You know something of the subject. You speak euphemistically about substances that could be prisoner's honey or cantergaster venom. Careful not to mention any specifics. These tidbits awaken a competitive spirit amongst the gathered socialites, and they share their own. You know enough of toxicology to understand that few of these stories are true. Still, they will make good anecdotes later. Any 3 tales of terror. Okay, looks like it's time for us to leave. We can bid farewell to the enterprising botanist. You have stayed as long as you wish. The enterprising botanist follows you to the door. Her cheeks are pink. You enjoyed it, didn't you? And you'll tell people? She casts her coal-smudged eyes at the aggrieved mycologist. Most academics spend so much time buried in books that they don't consider how our work might captivate the public. What's the point unless we're making people feel? She clasps the ruched satin of her bodice. I've made some enemies, all visionaries too. But when London sees what I've done, when I'm on the front of the Gazette, well, my colleagues will wish they'd been more supportive. Your visit to the poison garden come to an end. Return to your lodgings. We can do that. Uh-oh. A blight. You awake with a yelp, heart racing, slick with sweat, and heavens, what is this? Is it coming from you? Uh-oh. Apply some bandages before your sheets are ruined. You are able to bind yourself sufficiently, or at least enough to protect the furnishings. However, this does nothing to quell the sensation beneath your bandages, which provokes imaginings of waves slopping over a melting shore. It is most acute in the places where your skin has been exposed. Perhaps you brushed against something? Ah, the poison garden. It must be in the enterprising botanist's best interests to cure your condition. Surely, it wouldn't do for word to spread that a visitor had been struck down by whatever this is. Let's return to the poison garden at once. Hopefully, the enterprising botanist can administer an antidote. You stagger to the enterprising botanist's front door, leaving a trail of sticky footprints along the garden path. However, it is not the botanist who answers, but the sun-touched gardener. She's out, he says, but maybe I can help. He gently peels back your bandages. Oh, you'll be fine, he says. Caught it much earlier than I did, look. He rolls up a shirt sleeve to reveal a wrinkled scar on his forearm. Come on in. The sun-touched gardener leads you through the empty house to a rickety shed behind the poison garden. Just as well it don't rain down here, he says cheerfully, opening the door to reveal an unmade bed and a table strewn with battered botanical tomes. This shed is evidently his home. Lie down, he says. I've got just the thing. Well, let's allow him to administer the antidote. It must be around here somewhere. The sun-touched gardener yanks open a damp, swollen cabinet and rootles around inside. It'll take a while to work, he says, and you'll need to relax or else... Aha! He holds a grubby jar aloft. Honestly, you really should lie down, he says, brushing some twigs off the blanket. He waits for you to recline before unscrewing the jar and dipping his fingers inside. The contents are stringy, like noodles, and he dribbles them onto your skin. Whereupon they dissolve, leaving no residue. It is a ringling sensation. The gardener gives you an apologetic smile. It is as if a many-tentacled beast is feeling its way along your veins. It's not painful exactly, but your pulse quickens when you dwell on what might be happening beneath your skin. "Talk to me," says the sun-touched gardener. "Get your mind off it. Where did he grow up?" He has an accent. Yeah, it's probably not the one I've been using for him, let's be honest. "Surface-born," the sun-touched gardener says, exaggerating his naturally heavy R's in a way that calls to mind hay bales and cider. I can't do that accent. That's like what? Devon? Maybe? He speaks of an idyllic childhood spent leaping into streams and running through woods, sticky with blackberry juice, tending sun-swollen vegetables under a dappled sky. "Probably should have stayed," he says, with a forced shrug. "But when we're young like that, you think peaceful means boring. So you go after other things, and you only learn what really matters once." He trails off. Well, you know. He is evasive about his manner of descent into the Neath. "I saw you know," says the sun-touched gardener. "Before, at a poison garden. You didn't seem like the other visitors. Not so worried about being seen." Taps his slightly grubby fingertips on the cover of one of his books. "I suppose I've been wondering what brought you here. To the garden, I mean. Although I'm often wondering why people end up where they do. Bit of a habit since I ended up in the Neath myself. I like plants, or what passes for plants in the Neath, or poisons fascinating you. This is not just any garden. I like plants. I do like plants." The sun-touched gardener's eyes sparkle as you speak. "Back when I was young, I knew how to make flowers grow, or how to make trees bear fruit, but I couldn't have told you why. No idea what was happening inside the plant, you know." Cheeks are flushed. "But now I'm here, working for an actual botanist, and I can read all these books that explain everything. Sometimes I'm allowed to look at a leaf through a microscope. Turns out there are all these tiny cells inside. If I'd stayed in my village, I'd never have learned that." The sun-touched gardener examines the place where he applied the ointment. It's difficult to be sure in the gloom of the shed, but for a moment it appears as if the skin is rippling. "Not to worry," he says. "It'll get worse before it gets better." He puts his cool palm to your forehead. "You're fine, promise. Come on, let's talk about something else. How did he become employed by the enterprising botanist? Their meeting must have been fortuitous. Or does he enjoy working in the poison garden? Surely there are safer jobs. Let's ask how he became employed." Sun-touched gardener smiles and tries to disguise it with a yawn. "He was a client," explains. "Back when I used to work on the Cumaean Canal. There are plenty of surface things that are wanted down here in the Neath, and there's a good living in helping people get them." His smile falters. "Anyway, he helped me when I first came here. There were people after me. Don't know what might have happened if she hadn't stepped in." He will say no more about it, but implies this is as much for her sake as his own. Dark spots pulse in the corners of your vision. You blink rapidly, as if that might sweep them away. "That thing with your eyes doesn't last long," says the gardener. "Don't think about it. Focus on me. Tell me..." He thinks for a moment. "Tell me if you ever think about where you grew up." Oh, we have three options. Of course, the past makes us who we are. You do not. The present is what matters. Or does he? Why else would he have asked? I'm going to go with of course. The past does make us who we are. "Oh, I don't know about that," replies the sun-touched gardener. "I think it's better to try to be who you want to be every day, not try to piece together who you are from bits of the past. Shouldn't dwell on what you can't change." He picks some mud from beneath a nail. "I didn't give home much thought when I first left. Assumed I'd be back eventually, all worldly and rich, and my family would realise I was right all along. But then I ended up down here, and suddenly home was all I could think about. Now I just try to distract myself. You're looking better, says the sun-touched gardener. But don't sit up just yet. Keep talking to me a bit longer. Does he enjoy working in the poison garden? Well, I'm grateful for the work, I suppose, the sun-touched gardener says, absent-mindedly scratching a scar on his cheek. Not the first dangerous thing I've done for a roof over my head. He considers the question further. I'm good at helping things grow. You'd think knowing how to garden under the sun wouldn't help me down here, but some things are the same. Everything in the garden just wants to live, fighting to grow. Same as up there. People, plants, he smiles. They'll tell you what they need, if you listen. The sun-touched gardener examines your skin. I think it's worked, he says. Don't worry if your skin feels prickly for a bit. I mean, from the outside, he grins. Been nice talking. Maybe it's just that we went through the same thing. He holds out his scarred forehand. But I feel like you understand some of it anyway. You stand and make your way towards the door. Wait, he says. I don't suppose... You want to see something secret? It's a project she's been working on. I've been wanting to talk about it with someone. We can accept he has helped you. It would be bad manners to refuse. Or we can accept with great enthusiasm. This is a rare opportunity. Great enthusiasm, let's go. The sun-touched gardener beams. Follow me, he says, and leads you through the poison garden to the padlocked hothouse. Its glass thick with condensation. I actually did quite a lot of work to find out what's in here, he says, fumbling with the lock. I feel quite attached to it. Obviously I couldn't grow it myself. It's all her doing, really. But helping keep it alive has made me feel like I'm part of something. The lock clicks and he opens the door, releasing a wave of humidity. Come on, he says. I'm glad you're as excited as I am. The bloom that should not be? A stove in the centre of the hothouse keeps the air warm and thick with moisture. Amid trays of propagating hell plants is an enormous flower, 2 feet high and ensconced in a heavy stone pot. Beneath its tightly furled petals is a cluster of leaves nestled in a bed of finger-like purple mushrooms. It takes a moment to understand what you're seeing. The leaves. They are green. The sun-touched gardener grins. Get a closer look. Let's examine the flower properly. The velvety petals are tightly wrapped around a central core, like a furled umbrella. It's from the surface, says the sun-touched gardener. Only blooms once every 10 years. Rest of the time it's just a gnarled little corm, buried under the ground, drinking up the sun with its leaves, saving its strength. That's how it's able to live down here. Well, that and the mushrooms. He lowers his voice. I was actually the one who helped Smug bring them down the canal. He runs a gentle finger over the petals. They quiver under his touch. It's gotta be worth it. Let's ask, how can it exist? Green plants need the sun. As I understand, the mushrooms are sustaining it, says the sun-touched gardener. Feeding it now the sun can't. Keeping it alive, even though it's down here. His voice catches. I know it's just one flower, he says, and it hardly ever blooms. And even on the surface, it's impossible to grow. But it's alive. It's got the sun in it. And if it wasn't for me, no one in the Neath would ever see it. Makes me think maybe everything that happened, everything I did, he smudges a sleeve across his eyes, meant something. You stand beside the sun-touched gardener, faces sweating, snatching shallowed breaths of soupy air. It's happening, he says, and steps closer to the plant. The petals rustle and peel back to reveal a glimpse of flame orange spadix, You step closer and feel the heat of the sun on your face. What a perfect place for a cliffhanger ending. I'm going to end the first episode here. I'm going to thank you all very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I like plants, so this should be interesting. I'm going to apologize for my voice. I'm still kind of sick. I'm recovering. It's cold. It's been weeks. It just won't go away. So, any strange sounding reading, that's my fault. But either way, thank you all very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, let me know what you think. Your comments are greatly appreciated. Thank you again to the members of the channel and the coffee supporters. It really does help me make these videos and keep the channel going. But as always, I'll see you next time.